to Savage Actual. Thanks for coming out and watching. Today we're going to do another episode of our interview series. Today we are with Yousef Badou. Today's episode, we're going to be talking to Yousef, who's got an incredible career behind him, and I think an incredible career ahead of him.
I actually know both these guys,
which is crazy.
From history. Yeah, small world.
Yeah,
and
small world.
I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was in the infantry. I'm not like soft guys like these secret squirrels here, but you know, I did my time for a country. Did a lot of tours over there, and I actually speak Arabic, so that kind of gave me a little bit of an interesting angle on wartime, being an infantryman and having war. And now those lessons we learned during war that were written in blood, you know, that people paid for, I teach those to, you know, churches, synagogues, communities, all the people that really need it, because a lot of people are walking around with zero situational awareness and they don't realize there's actually a curriculum you can learn. There's someone that can show you so you don't have to go through this crazy violent event and then understand situational awareness.
Join the Marines this time.
When you need to buck shit up or just wake up, get Black Rifle.
So you're talking about 3-4 months later, I started January 2008 at the unit, a School of Infantry Combat Hunter, or ISK, you know. I was on my way to a combat tour until my buddy called me and said, hey, we're standing up this new unit that teaches, you know, whiz-bang behavior profiling. And, you know, this is a 4th tour, and my wife was like, gee, sure. I thought we were kind of over that in our life, you know. So this was right there. I was living in Huntington. So I'm like, shit, that's right there. So I became an SOI instructor, and then that's what led into the combat hunter.
So you became just a normal SOI instructor?
No. Can I take this real quick? We break this?
Real quick. We got to show what this dude's wearing. Are these Jordans?
Yeah, they're Jordans. Yeah,
Look at these, can you show these guys your Jordans?
You haven't been looking at them the entire
I have.
time? I thought the camera got it.
I wanted to show off his fucking Jordans.
I wore these
Get up on
for
the
the
couch.
camera, damn
Get up on
it.
the couch.
Look at these dudes' fucking kicks.
You know how times I polish these, I'm going to
Put
kill
'em-
myself.
Those badass fucking shoes.
Yeah. White. 3rd time I've ever worn them. You know?
That's it?
For the show, huh?
There you go.
Those are sick shoes, man.
These are my Sunday specials, man. I'm going to catch so much shit for this one.
Savage Actual, Audio 6, Scene 2, Take 3.
He's like, what was that shit? All right, so
Bowie's famous.
we've had a dog suddenly appear. This is Bowie, everybody. This is Jason's canine.
How much you eating, dude? I'm gonna share this.
And so Yousef ends up at SOI.
School of Infantry.
School of
Infantry.
Instructor.
Yeah,
or
there we go.
pseudo. What
Yeah.
was the deal?
You've been out of the Marine Corps now.
A year and a half. A year and
You're a
and
civilian.
7 months.
You've been wearing sandals.
I'm a fat beer drinking civilian, like nothing. Man.
Nasty.
I have checked out. And they're like, oh, come on down and go to Marine Corps Combat Instructor course. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, cool. Not understanding that school has done a revamp and it's actually hands down, and you know where we met,
Yeah.
McKick was way harder. Way harder.
You went through the instructor course.
Yeah. Yeah.
No shit.
Way harder.
You had to do that as an instructor.
Physically and mentally. Yeah. They didn't care where you went. Even snipers, recon, you all had to go. And
I
those guys,
respect that. I dig that.
those guys broke me off. Like, those guys can hike, man.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Physically,
Like a lot of homies.
It wasn't just how to be an instructor. It was like
No, it
physical.
wasn't. No, it was just getting dropped. Like, we had a huge class.
It's kind of weird.
Because
Yeah.
even when we would go down and do the classes for them for a combat hunter, they weren't that huge. But I'm sure back then it was.
So we dropped 22 people in one day, a double signers adverse fit rep because of hike drops. All back out to the Marine Corps, like where the adverse fit, just because you couldn't, and their hikes, they had no stand, they just go. And if you had a GPS, they'd be like, give me that shit. They didn't want anybody to have GPSs because the school had speed standards. You can't go faster than this. And they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know?
That's cool. I dig it.
So they broke me off, and then went to the combat hunter program, and that's where I started teaching the tracking and advanced observation and the behavior profiling to the Fleet Marine Corps. So we're flying all over the place.
So you're it's a very general statement. So okay, no offense. You go to McKick, graduate that, if you want to call it that, and then you check into combat hunter.
Yep.
So, you have any idea what kind of instructor you're going to be? Did you know anything about combat hunter?
They got a guy come pitch us about the unit, and it was the worst pitch I've ever heard.
Who was this?
He was a captain and a major, and the guy gets up there, and they all wanted us to do this combat hunter thing, so they wanted to recruit us. And he gets up there and gets his pitch, and it's a horror. He goes, I haven't seen my family in like months. We travel all the time. It's like living out of a sea bag. But come on down. And we're all like, that? I don't want to do that. Yeah, that sounds horrible. He didn't say anything about the program. Then we find out from Gunnar Leahy. Gunnar Leahy grabs us and goes,
I know that name.
Yeah, he's
I do know that name.
Yeah, he's that's another interesting one. Great man. He brought us in. He goes, look, guys, this is what you guys are going to teach. And he broke it down. He goes, you're going to be teaching advanced optics and observation theory, behavior profiling, and man tracking, ground sign awareness. This is all the shit that you, hey, everyone listeners, this is the shit you join the military to do. This is the Call of Duty. You're like, hell yeah. It's not what you do in the military. You do everything but the cool stuff. But this is why you join. So they started explaining. I was like, whoa, this is legit. And then I went through the training as an instructor first. So this is after.
How long was that period of instructors teaching instructors?
So McKick was 3 months. So he got done with 3 months. Then you had
You had actual OJT.
yeah, OJT, and then we actually had an instructor course. So
Within combat hunter?
within
Is that
combat
three?
hunter,
That's
yeah.
another 3
4
weeks.
4 weeks. Yeah.
4 weeks.
So how was that? Just learning the curriculum,
Just
the pubs.
blowing my mind, knowing
Was it awesome?
knowing the information, Jason, that everyone is in the room getting the training, and I was like, this is badass, this is awesome.
Did they do a good job of teaching it to
Oh, fantastic. And at the end of the day, I was pissed because this was the shit that could have kept our friends alive. This could have absolutely could have brought our friends.
But it
hear
was
that over
new.
and over.
It was new. I mean, as they were advancing in tactics, it was a
Exactly.
cat and mouse game is what it is.
We got caught in our generation, but having that feeling, knowing, damn, we could have done something to brought someone home. Knowing that feeling is a bad feeling, but that's what drives my passion to keep teaching it now, because I don't want anybody to have a horrible feeling like, damn, I could have done something. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know? So that's where, and from there, when I got bit, I got bit hard, man. I saw the value of it.
Into it, huh?
Oh, 1000%, just because I saw the value of keeping people alive. But it's such interesting stuff, You're talking about
Subtle stuff that you're.
yeah, man.
You call it being in the white, like the color scale. Like you're just oblivious, like most Americans are.
Yeah.
And we pick up things like a weird, aggressive dude in the corner in a bar.
Well, do you want to explain the color scale thing?
You know the color scale.
Yeah. Cooper's color code, and that's a great way to have a mindset of situational awareness. And I'll probably screw these up, but it's white, yellow, orange, red, and then
Black.
Marine
In the
Corps.
black.
Marine Corps or added black. Black is actually a Marine Corps color. Oh, sorry, Marine Corps added orange, and then there's black. So if you're in white, you're completely oblivious, like taking a nap at home, whatever. Then you have yellow, where you're a little bit more alert. Something's going on. Maybe there's noises, but you haven't identified something specifically yet. But you kind of general alertness.
Sometimes you don't even know you're being drawn into it. It's like your ears pick it up.
Yeah, white would be those people that you guys see on the news who are walking around, they're on their phone, and fucking somebody walks up behind them and bashes them in the head and takes their phone and takes their wallet, and that's being in white. Being, like Yousef said, completely.
Which is okay, which is like most.
It's not okay.
In the sense of daily life, you're in a safe
It's not
spot.
okay. You should never be in white. You should never be walking around and be completely oblivious. Absolutely not.
I agree with you to some point, but I am saying most
everyone
Americans-
ends up in that, right?
Right.
And there's a time and a place for it. But if you're out walking with your girlfriend, or you're walking with your children, or you're out in public, you should at least have a basic awareness of what the fuck is going on around you.
I agree.
Well, let me play devil's advocate. Let me short circuit both of you. Cool. You said we should all not be in condition what? We should all walk around with our family. Okay, cool. You know that. You know that. We know that. I know that. Okay. What do they know? Have you even heard of condition white before today?
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
That's why
what
I'm
is
saying most
situational
Americans
awareness?
are constantly in
Absolutely, and I totally agree.
98%.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's what I'm saying is like we shouldn't even creating that sort of ethereal like a white and creating these colors. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's just this thing that we've attached to that idea of where we're at. People should not walk around lost in your fucking phone, not understanding what's going on around you. That's like one of the worst things that you can do, and that's why people end up, walking into fucking traffic because I'm Pokemoning. And
Driving.
all that shit.
Yeah.
Driving.
Oh, yeah.
And being in the white regarding like driving like normal behaviors, like you should be present. You should be aware that most people are sucked in talking to fucking Susie Rottencrotch on the fucking phone about fucking the Kardashians or some shit, and then you fucking rear end a fucking cinema.
Right.
And here's the thing, like it's not about being hard or being aware. It's a brain thing. Most people don't even realize you have a limited capacity to take in information. So if I burn out, not paying attention, or I'm paying attention, I'm paranoid, I'm hypervigilant. About 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to burn out. And Murphy's Law will tell you right when you should be paying attention, and you're not. That's when Murphy's going to show up and rip your day in half. Like, not like just that. If I can get people just to get on the phone, but also step above that to understand like 60 to 65% of communication with human beings is nonverbal.
Yep.
Some people say 70%. So everyone's walking around thinking, oh, I communicate with my words. It's like, nah, man, there's a whole layer of language happening.
Much like we talked about language earlier.
Yeah,
Body
exactly.
language, eye set,
Yep.
demeanor,
Yep.
your stance,
Tone of voice.
the group of people you're with.
Yep, absolutely. Dress, posture, guys, when we're in the club and someone steps on our shoe and I want to get a little bit more bass in my voice, you're trying to intimidate people. Or like you ever a guy like a guy who needed QRF, like get shot out in the radio of the boot, and he'd be like, terms of contact, we need QRF.
Yeah,
It's like,
shit, yep.
dude, get the boot off the thing. That's him showing stress in his voice, the higher level of stress. So all little indicators like that if no one's ever taken your head, and it's not rocket science, it takes someone
you
to
just
show
haven't
you.
given it attention.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't had a reason to.
Exactly. No one's ever given you a reason to look. It's like you're driving around your whole life and the street signs in this town are 4 inches off the ground. And you're lost, man. You're like, man, this town sucks till you stop. And someone in the town goes, yeah, man, in our town, we ain't got a lot of money, so our things are only 4 inches round. Are you ever going to be lost again? Now you know where to look, But it took someone
It's a
to
good
take-
analogy.
It is a
go
good
look,
analogy.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about Combat Hunter and the creation of it and how it was brought about.
Yeah, so pretty heavy, man. Like, it's
This
funny.
rolls into a little bit of
David Scott.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So basically we were dealing with a really bad problem back in the day of the Juba sniper. The Juba sniper was running around the battlefield, killing us like it was going out of style, basically.
So I'm going to inject real quick, me being a sniper. Juba, the sniper, was a myth, but not a myth. Dude became a legend. So in 2004 to 6.
it's one of those that's 100% one of those military rumors that got out of control.
But dude, it was a sniper.
Legit, but not legit.
It was a sniper, but he's using a Dragunov, Russian variant sniper. But he was fucking murking Americans and all kinds. He would record these, and they would use these videos for information warfare. And it got into her fucking psyche. That's the last thing I want is when I get smoked by this dude. So rumor has it, dude smoked lots of fucking people. It's not even rumor. He did smoke a lot. Dude was a real person, but at some point Juba got smoked. But other fucking people were implementing or not implementing, but like replicating him, and they kept the legend of Juba going. Yep. Supposedly Juba really did get smoked. He died by Americans, and then but more insurgents, more bad guys took on the role of Ruba. So it was like this.
AJ, right? I won't say the last name, but yeah, he's in shot. He's your people.
Marine sniper.
I know AJ. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah. AJ shot him. I do a whole case study on AJ's shot. Like that was the impetus of
And the funny thing was, it wasn't like some super I'm behind the fucking.
I know the whole story.
The most random thing in the
I know
world.
the whole story.
To
us, stumbled on him.
People were like
stumbled on him. He was on top of a roof.
It was a mission.
Right.
Yeah. He was hunting.
I was told, this rumor, and it's fucking batting rumor. The story is they were on a line. It was a Marine Corps line with fucking Amtrak's, and literally the Army's line was like across the fucking street, like down the street.
Mm-hmm.
So they were on the edge of this Army Marine Corps line, invisible line to like the common people in the area. They were on top of this they were in this hide site, these Marine Corps snipers, and there was a little fucking blue car that was across the street, and these Amtrak's, these armored vehicles set up in a convoy. They were stationary, taking a break. They were in the area. Bait. So fucking this enemy sniper in a vehicle came and parked across the street and was setting up. One guy, Pashuti, my sniper instructor, was watching this whole thing and across the street. And one guy got out and went down the street. But the other guy, there's two guys in the vehicle, crawled in the back seat and disappeared. And that's why he was just like,
was he in the trunk?
He was in the
trunk.
very
much like the DC sniper.
So the license, I think it was the license plate or the light, and I think it might have been the light the back left or the back right?
They were both variations. They did the light, they did the license plate.
So they did both on the same vehicle?
That one was a light. They popped out the
They
back.
popped out the light, and that's where the dude was smoking people from this light, which was smart. So Pashuti fucking got his team, like, dude, they're engaged. They're now like in the fucking orange. Like shit's heightened. You're watching shit like this little
You're like,
car is positioned.
That's the anomaly.
Yep.
The anomaly was the car was, I think it moved a few times. It wasn't just a park in one spot. It was like you could kind of tell the vehicle was like staging. It did a couple J-point turns or whatever, like 12-point turns.
If you were paying attention
If you were
to
paying
it.
attention.
The one car amongst hundreds. that they
Amongst
were
hundreds,
selling.
and it was like small bill, I guess. And the one dude, that's the weird part, is the dude got out in one state, but that one guy disappeared.
Yep.
So Pashuti
touch
smokes,
me,
takes
bro.
a shot, and smokes this enemy sniper. They all go down there to the vehicle, and it's I want to say it's an M40, fucking A2, A3 American USMC sniper rifle. Dude had taken off the Schmidt and Bender scope, American grade, badass $6,000 American scope. They didn't know how to work the goddamn thing. I mean, you really do have to be trained on this thing to use it. It's a very intelligent scope. They fucking took it off and they like welded like a Tasco Walmart fucking scope.
Well, you know why they did that,
'Cause
right?
it's easy.
No, because the ranges that they were. So, what's the range on a fucking Schmidt and Bender?
For sure.
900
Way
meters.
fucking-
Right.
Yeah.
So these guys are firing at what we're talking about. Well,
Within a couple hundred.
under 200
sometimes
meters.
50 yards across the
Yup.
street.
So,
And this engagement, I think what this dude was targeting was within 75 meters.
and that's why, because that they're like, fuck, we can't bring it in that far. So they got rid of it, put on that cheap ass shit because they could get in.
Point aim, point impact
Yup,
at this
basically.
And did they need a 10-power scope at 75 yards?
Nope.
No, and
That's
it
why
worked.
it messed up your
And
shot.
It worked.
Yeah.
And it
That's
worked.
why they did that. Yeah.
So from that incident, when they took the shot, so another component is this: the driver was very well trained. So the driver get out, the shooter would go prone to take a shot. The driver was trained to listen to one well-aimed shot, and then what would you do? You calmly walk back, get in the car, and calmly drive out of there, right? Not screech your tires. Well, on this
They
day,
smoked the driver too. Didn't they get both of them?
so the driver heard the gunshot. He thought it was Juba. Got back in the car, and AJ smoked him too. So because of that incident, Jason, they were able to break the mold. We were watching the propaganda videos. We were seeing what we were thinking. We were thinking our snipers, like you, 900 meters away, ghillie suit, rooftop, you know. So when we were walking around, we're looking up and out. When this guy was shooting ground,
Danger close.
danger close, and we didn't have a file folder for that. So that was the impetus of the whole program. We had to get smart real quick. We had to be able to learn how to train these guys to pick out a deadly threat in a crowd of complete civilians, just using behavior profiling, advanced observation with your optics and whatnot. So that was the impetus. Because you mentioned it, Jason, like if you talk to Marine soldiers, sailors, anybody on the ground at the time, they'd tell you, I feel like I'm being hunted. Like you just stand there on post one day with a dip in, and then you get shot, your buddy gets shot in the chest.
American uniform out in the open.
That's it. There's no IED, there's no follow-on.
There's
ambush.
hundreds of videos like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we really had to flip the script.
There
That's
was a
what
recon dude that got shot right in the fucking Kevlar or the chest plate, and he fell down. And like Juba the sniper, because that's the thing about Juba, he was recording every shot, and they would use that for propaganda.
and that's how they get paid.
Dude, and it fucked with us, fucked with our psyche, like it really did.
So, and then the impotence to all of that was General Mattis coming out and saying,
We are not the hunted.
this is
We are
not
the
what
hunters.
Marines
Yeah.
are or should be.
Marines
And
are never hunted.
So General Mattis is the one that made the change to that and said, we're going to put together a program. Let's figure this shit the fuck out and put a stop to
It's
it.
basically teaching in simple terms to be more observant.
Absolutely.
Look for the anomalies.
Marines, we should be the hunters, not the hunted,
Yeah.
exactly like Badou said.
So they brought in big game hunters, they brought in law enforcement, they brought in David Scott Donnellan, law enforcement, anybody who had anything to say about teaching situational awareness.
Probably Black's off as well. Probably brought some of those guys over.
They had a warehouse, and then at the end of it, they had like
Think-
three people
They had a
left.
think tank.
Yep, had a big think, and
Think
at the
tank.
end there were three people, David being one of them, and that's what started the program of advanced observation, tracking, and profiling, and that's where I became cadre and started teaching them for years to build in tactical cunning. So like tactical patience, we talked about that with the Marines. Like if I see a dude burying an IED, do I have the full legal, moral, ethical right
Smoke the
to
dude right
smoke
there.
him?
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. But if I'm not in danger right now, none of my Marines are in immediate
Let's
danger.
wait for this to develop.
Where
What
does
can
this
we
take
do?
me? Yep.
What can we learn from this?
What the soft guys, you soft guys do this great, but the infantry we spent a lot of time figuring this out, is dead men tell no tales. Okay, so if my security is good and everyone's okay, I'm gonna play this out a little bit, because who's burying the IED? He's a peon. He's a nothing. They pay him $50. You know?
Private.
He probably doesn't even hate Americans, but you take some poor Afghani kid and go, here's $100. What do you think he's gonna do?
Or we're gonna kill your family.
Yeah, or that. We're not competing, we're just gonna off your family. So I'm not really taking anybody off the battlefield. So that we do that through behaviors, through watching. So if I have an explosion, an ID going off, what is a natural human behavior to that? Shock, horror, reflexes, right? So if I have an individual walking away from an area and I got a bomb go off, an IED, and he barely shrugs his shoulders and doesn't even turn around,
Used to it.
come here, guy.
Well, yeah.
Or he knew it was
expected.
coming.
Yep.
It's like, come here, chucklehead. You have my full attention now. So we were so used to being kinetic and looking for that fight. If you can look
And
at
instantaneously putting rounds on top.
yeah, if
Right.
you can just go left to bang, look at pre-event indicators, and all you got to do is find one of these pre-event indicators left to bang before the shit goes down. You pull on that thread, and that bad event, the car bombing, the sniper attack, that thing falls apart. So I that was my time. I did that hey diddle diddle Marine Corps, kicking ass and taking names and doing that. But it's like, man, that was a long time ago for me. I'm older now, and I like to, not to be off on a tangent, but as vets and as combat vets, a lot of times we get stuck on fire, like we're blazing fires, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but instead of like a blazing fire, how about sunshine, So instead of burning stuff, how about putting some positivity? So that's what I do now, is I take those skills, that nasty, shitty, horrible stuff that we all had to live with, and go, all right, is there an ounce of good here?
Yeah, this definitely does translate into like
Absolutely.
on a hike with your family, dude,
Absolutely.
and like picking up on signs of an animal or
Or some impending threat. I had a
Right.
woman from Guatemala, no military, no nothing. I was teaching at a bank a couple years ago, and she walks up to me after the thing. She's kind of like teary-eyed, and she goes, "I just got to tell you, she grew up in like shit-ass Guatemala." She's like, when I was 3 years old, I watched my first person get murdered right in front of me. That wasn't the last one. Really bad. So she grew up, and then she moved to America. She had kids here in America, but she grew up hyper situationally aware. Sound familiar? Always checking her six, always looking around, head on a swivel, 24/7. So much so that her kids would make fun of her. They're like, "Man, I'm so paranoid." You're so
paranoid. Right. She's
Yeah.
never in the way.
And she felt very, very weird about it, very self-conscious. She thought it was weird. I teach a class, I get done. She goes, "I feel like you gave me permission." She goes, I'm doing everything you're saying automatically, but because I heard some other person say it, I feel like now I have permission. If I see some weird shit, I'm gonna call some people on it. I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, they're just probably whatever," and fill in the blank like most people do.
You make that excuse.
Yeah. She's gonna go, "Hey, what's up? Hey, can I help you? What's going on here?" So coming from the military side and knowing the successes there, and then complete civilian houses of worship and hearing the success from there, this stuff absolutely works.
So you taught combat hunter, taught Marines exactly what we're talking about now. You EAS, you get out of the Marine Corps, and you start this business now. What did you do right after the
It
Marine
was
Corps?
like The Godfather, man. I have like some codependency fucking issue with the Marine Corps. It's like the God, when they try to get out and they pull me back in. So I did my 4 years. I served my country voluntarily. I get out for a year and a half.
Sucked back in.
They recall me back in.
Green weenie strikes again.
So I did my 4 year. I did my four. Ended up being 4 years. They extended us at Combat Hunter. I'm like, all right, back to civilian. That was fun. And they're like, "Hey, bro, want a job?" And so I'm like, "Sure, okay." So
Easy, simple.
they did my hail and bail. We drank beers on Friday, and I came back to the command Monday with like a polo shirt, a grew Arab ass beard, like out to here in the weekend, And then so I stayed at Combat Hunter as a contractor. Ended up becoming the chief instructor over there for SOI. Like I was going to it was so weird, man. I was a complete civilian going to like ops meetings and shit because it's like it was only contractors out there. And I'd go to pick up MREs and they're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Just give me the fucking MREs, man." So I did another 5 years there, and then that's where my horizon that's when I
So 8 years Marine Corps, another 5 years. Part Marine.
ish, yeah, in and
Marine
out.
ish.
Well, one
Yeah,
foot in,
Marine-ish.
and then I was in the reserve still. So that happened, and then an incident happened to me with a very good friend of mine. I won't say his name, but basically I taught a guy these skills. This guy was a Marine, this guy had a corrections background, so he knew what he was doing. And he tells me this story. He goes and teaches his daughter this stuff secondhand, completely secondhand. Never even heard of me. And she was at the Las Vegas massacre. He calls me and he's like choked up. He's like, my daughter was in the shoot. This is the day after. And he starts telling me about how she went there with her boyfriend. I don't know if she's dead or alive. I know her. I'm like, holy shit.
So he doesn't know?
No, I don't know yet in the story. He's I answer the phone. He's like, my daughter was at Vegas.
Got it.
And I'm like, holy shit, you know, where's this going? And he goes, she's safe. She's not physically hurt. But he tells me the story, man. He goes, I do a whole portion on denial, like trigger lines, you know? If I see A, B, and C, it's time to make a decision. No waiting around. You got to make a decision. You got to do something. Get off the X, you know? And I taught her a version of this, and the first volley of shots ring out. She's in the middle with her boyfriend and her friend. The first volley rings out. She's not even a shooter. She goes, I don't know what that was. That was really weird. I'm getting nervous. And her boyfriend and her friends goes, it's fireworks. It's fireworks. And like fireworks in the middle of the concert, you can't even hear the concert. That was enough for her. She goes, you know what? I don't like this. She grabs her boyfriend's wrist and starts dragging him to the fence line. He's trying to like bring her back the whole time. She goes, I don't give a shit. I'm leaving. She goes, you can stay. I'm out. So he goes, and as they're stepping over the fence line, second and third volley, and that's when people are dying. You know, that's when people are falling. I had my very good friend Brandon Valdez, who was an LAPD cop. He was a Fallujah Marine. He was in the middle of the crowd with a knife, and he said, he goes, I've never seen combat like that. He goes, I've never seen death in just a Fallujah Marine. He goes, it was like that boat scene in Saving Private Ryan, where the Higgins boat drops and everyone's dying. So
that many rounds, huh?
Just volley. That story.
You've seen the
he had a minute of angle. Yeah,
it's insane.
But anyway, so that happened, and he tells me this, and I'm like, holy shit! So she's alive, she's fine, just based off this training. That's what really hit me, because it's not me. I'm up here doing the Roman candles and the teaching. Everyone's like, oh, we like you, you know, tell stupid jokes. It's the knowledge. All it takes is someone to show you. Anybody, doesn't matter who it is. They show you the knowledge, and you can't unsee it. So it's a perfect civilian that picked up, you know, even there were combat vets, and that was enough for her to go, you know, it hit my trigger line. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's freaking me out enough to, I'm going to create distance and get the hell out of here. So that really hit me hard, man. And it was like the military, man, when we train us, it's like, at least if you don't have the skills I teach, at least you got a gun, at least you have other training, you know, you're not starting from zero. But our communities, our people here in America, especially with all stuff going on, oftentimes they're starting less than zero. So like, gun to my head, if you're like, you're going to teach SEALs or you're going to teach, you know, mom and pop from this church over here, I'm going mom and pop every time. Because SEALs and military and Marines, we got a
foot ahead.
We got a starting point.
You know, where our communities are just the phone thing. Just, you know, we all hear that, yeah, no shit, get your head on the phone. That's like step one, you know, but there's a whole other layer of the specific behavioral indicators that you can really break out and really teach people, you know.
So what's the name? Okay, so you did that for 5 years. As an instructor.
Go on.
You end your contracting instructor career. What's next?
So that's when I started the business. That situation I talked about, it's like, this is not getting out there fast enough. We were training barely 1,000 Marines a year. You know, it's like, this isn't getting out fast enough. If that, you know, who knows what it looks like now. So I started the business in March of 2007, quit them.
What's the name of the business?
Emergence.
That's right, and it's still that name.
Yep, still Emergence. Yep, I'm lucky with the naming. Usually people, you name a business and then you like it, but Emergence is it's actually a biological term, and it has to do with different organisms working together for an outcome. So think of like an anthill, like in Africa, those big ones. That's the emergence of all these organisms helping each other. So I think of it as, if I can teach like 1 million Americans these skills, we're kind of emerging. We're all this. It's not just Jason and Patrick and me being, it's a combat multiplier if we all know this information. So Emergence.
Yep.
How do you spell that? Is it I-M-M-E-R-G-E-N-C-E?
E-M-E-R-G-E-N-C-E.
Got it, okay.
Just don't add a Y.
And that's how I met Mr. Badou.
So yeah, so I don't know if you want to jump into that.
Yeah, so how did you guys meet?
So I was, after I retired, I was retired from the Navy in 2017 and was out for a few months, and I got contacted by Combat Hunter. They had an opening and they needed a civilian instructor, and I had some tracking background, a little bit of profiling stuff from the from the agency and that type of thing. So I came out there and started working out at Combat Hunter, and then it was probably a year and a half later you came back on.
Yep.
We were short of instructors, and
Was he a civvy at this time?
yeah, he was a
Contractor?
civilian. Yeah, and
They fucked everything.
we were there's some craziness going on. I mean, it's just like any company, there's craziness that goes
Right.
on.
I had to go back and hose off to Patrick.
Yeah, we needed an instructor, and there was actually an instructor there, this guy Mitch, that had been there for years, super experienced. He was actually kind of a protege of David Scott Donnellan.
He's the guy who taught me tracking.
Yup.
Been tracking for 30
Guy's
years.
an amazing tracker, and
I think I had a buddy that was a combat hunter. Dude, actually, now I think about it.
he was a good. Him and Badou were
Tiny
good,
community.
good friends. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody that's been there knows each other
Yep.
or heard of
Austin.
each other.
Gunny Austin? Last name?
Last name was Austin.
Yeah, we had Gunny in first round Austin. Yeah, I know him. 2 dogs, yeah.
2 dogs. He's got 2 dogs.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, and so Mitch reached out to Badou and asked him to come back out and help fill in the space for a while before we, and so we worked together for
About a year. Well, I was only there for a year.
about a year.
It was kind of an agreed upon, like, hey, I'll come back for a year. You know, I
Yeah.
don't want to get stuck too much.
So how did you guys, was David Scott Donnellan there at this
No,
time? How did you
so
guys,
he was David was
he like the Godfather? He kind of started.
Yeah,
this-
He's the godfather. He is the grandfather, the godfather, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure people watching this are going to freak out in the tracking community because everyone's a prima donna. But David Scott Donnellan brought tactical tracking to America in the 90s.
without a doubt.
There's other types of tracking out there. There's search and rescue. There's animal.
He made it applicable to the
Especially
military.
Exactly.
combat tracking specifically, human tracking in the sense of combat. He without a doubt
Finding
brought
people
that.
and shooting them at the end.
Yeah. Tracking some dirtbag down and putting a bullet in his freaking
Not
head.
like hunting a dude that broke a twig or two in the fucking forest.
Yeah, or you're looking for Johnny, who's been lost in freaking
Sardish and
the
shit. Right,
Yellowstone
right.
for 10 days.
Which is
We can find
applicable,
him,
but this is for the
this is
military.
and here's the thing is like tactical tracking is
Yeah.
very, very different from looking for somebody for search and rescue, because what do you have to expect? You have to expect that this individual knows
Dehydrated.
that they're being tracked,
Oh, yeah.
right? They're gonna prepare that they're being tracked. They're gonna set up,
You're forcing their
ambushes.
hand by tracking them.
Right.
They
yeah.
can't get away.
Who's to say that this guy isn't breaking the ridge line as we come over the ridge line into the valley and he sees us? Okay, now I'm going to set up a freaking,
Something.
an ambush on these clowns. Or hey, now I'm going to come back on my track line or parallel my track. There's a lot of stuff that plays into it, and David is
The man.
the expert, he's fucking Yoda when it comes to all that. And
Kills
that's-
more people than plague.
Yeah.
FYI, the David we're talking about is the dude that Patrick and I shot, David Scott Donnellan. We did one part of our series. We're gonna actually go back and shoot more of David, who basically, like we said, started the combat hunting program for America in the 90s.
in the
tracking
tracking portion,
tracking.
right? So there's within Combat Hunter, you've got the tracking, you got observation piece, and you have the combat profiling, human profiling. And David, without a doubt, was the primary individual for the combat tracking.
And the observation theory, you just dig it because all it is, we stole it completely from you guys,
Yep.
burning through and all that stuff. But giving it to like grunts, don't need to know mil dot. But like here, let me show you how to burn
But it's-
through and do
but
that.
it's all-
the
it's-
little tips that you guys take for granted, like that's like bread and butter. But we use the hell out of those,
Just getting these guys out there with a set of binos. I mean, it blows their minds.
Just like the Kim's games and
Yep.
just
We
finding
do.
an anomaly, like okay, like we did it in sniper school and recon school all the fucking time. It's like we'd lay down on the prone and then we'd get like 20 items the instructors would put out in front of us 100 feet in the rocks, in the trees, and you had no idea what you were looking for, so you were looking, and sometimes they do it facing the fucking sun. So you'd lay down, you'd have a sketchbook, you've got 30 Marines online, and they're teaching us how to pay attention to like little nuances. It'd be like a Hot Wheel car, and a beer tab, and a fucking dog tag, and a little army man that's carrying an RPG, and we'd have to draw this out in this little map, left to right lateral limits, pinpoint where it's in, a little line, like what we thought it was. And the shit was graded, and you were taught in school how to be observant. And it's hard for some guys like us to shut that off when we go back in to like normal fucking life. You're driving down the fucking highway and you see a pair of shoes in a bush, like, damn, is there someone in those shoes? Like, holy fuck, there is.
Yep.
You know, like, just a dude on a fucking bike that just got hit, and everyone's driving by him, and no one knows he's there.
Yep.
And here's another component. I'm glad you brought this up, Jason. You know, here's another component of me teaching. You know, I've taught every squirrel out there, every cool guy, and to a person, here's the other side. So if civilians are way down here, we're operating with nothing. What are you guys operating out? The military, it's way up here at hypervigilance. They're both not good things.
True
They're
story.
Both, the extremes are not
True
good.
story.
Yeah. If you're
You
hypervigilant,
don't fucking sleep. You don't rest.
you don't sleep, you
You're
never
tired,
let it
yeah.
go.
Right.
And like hypothetically, you get like $100 of attention currency every day. You wake up in the morning. That's all you get. So if you spend your attention currency on shit that doesn't matter, you know, your phone, texting, whatever, you're gonna burn out when a threat or a potential threat happens.
You might miss it.
Exactly.
You're burned out. You're so hyper vigilant.
You're
and
whole
now-
soul.
That's where PTSD
You're now on your
comes
life.
from.
Exactly.
Right. For
And,
sure.
and when you're hyper vigilant, think about this. This is crazy. When you're hyper vigilant, that's paranoia. That means you're looking for threats everywhere. So
when there isn't one, you're almost making threats up.
exactly.
Oh, for
So
sure.
the needle in the haystack analogy, right? So when I'm paranoid, what am I doing with that analogy? I'm not finding the needle. When I'm paranoid, you're making that haystack bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you'll never find the needle. So what I do is I come in and I teach people specific behavioral cues to show, okay, we don't have to pay
More
attention to
realistic,
everything.
more realism.
When you should pay attention. Like you walk into a mall.
Escalated force. Escalated awareness.
If I go into Iraqi village, like we roll our trucks in there, and every time you roll in this ville, these Iraqis hated you. Finger guns, kids are throwing rocks, they're doing this number. Do we have a baseline on that ville?
Yep.
They don't like Marines, cool. It's not a free country, bro, you know? What happens the fifth time I go in there? Everyone's doing their thing, except I got one guy in the back waving at us, laughing, you know, smiling. That's where I stop the truck and go, come here, chucklehead. What's your problem?
What do you know? Yeah, I don't.
There's rules to this stuff we call life. All these people are acting, playing by the rules, so why are you not? I'm not going to say I'm going to take him out, but he's my anomaly. And so these behaviors are not often like very overt if you don't pay attention to it, you know?
Right. And what he's talking about, guys, we call the baseline. Even if it could be positive, it could be negative, even like what you're talking about that example. The baseline is everyone hates us. The anomaly is the dude who's now acts like he doesn't hate us, and that's the
Where are you from?
that's
Yeah,
the
what's up,
anomaly.
bro?
Now, and that's we use baseline plus anomaly equals decision.
Yep.
Bad. So, and that's the guy. Like, hey, it's time to make a decision. What is this guy doing? And you might have the exact opposite. The baseline could be, you know, every time we go into this village, everyone is super friendly. There's a lot of people around. This is, I think, a little bit more common that we've all experienced. Super friendly, or people are around. You know, they're ambivalent. They don't care one way or another, and you're coming into a contact with a lot of people. And then the next time you come into the village, because there's a car bomb, there's a freaking IED, there's a potential ambush, and everyone's gone. Now the anomaly is there are no people around. There are no kids that want to follow the patrol. There's no one hanging out in the freaking bazaar. That becomes the anomaly. Now we need to make a decision about what could potentially be happening, and that's now you operate off of that. You know, so.
I had one of our Marines we trained. I think it was you and me. He goes in country, goes to Afghanistan, and for whatever reason, he's Candyman. He had a dump pouch and he Jolly Rancher. That was us, right? He had Jolly Ranchers in there.
Green charms.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And charms. Yeah. You just dated yourself. By the way. So he liked kids. He liked the kids because they reminded his kids. So
For sure. I think we all like it.
Yeah, it makes you feel good. Not so horrible. So he'd whip out the Jolly Ranchers from the can. What do you think every kid in this Afghaniville did? Boom, And every time he came up, he's a candy man. And he would go through his dump pouch before he got 10 feet into the village. It was a small village. And this is savvy, man. I love this story. And he starts handing candy out. Boom, boom, kids are rushing. And all of a sudden, kids are gone. He's like, all right, whatever. He's not thinking, he's patrolling. And he's walking, and he feels weight in his dump pouch. He's like, what's that candy? He looks in there, about halfway full of candy. He's like, that's never happened before. And he turns around. All these kids in this little village are lined up like on an imaginary line on their tiptoes, and none of them will cross this line. And he's like, he's savvy enough to go, whoa, everyone off the road, get off the road. What do you think was 50 feet above the road, waiting for him? Big pressure plate IED.
Damn.
So simple things like, do kids know what's going on in neighborhoods? Yeah, they're
Fuck
running
yeah.
around.
They're
See
observant.
They see it all. You
Right,
know.
right.
You remember when you were a little shit and your mom
I knew
kicked
my
you out?
neighborhood. I knew my street.
Well, it's for everybody.
Don't come back
I mean,
till you come the lights on. Until
Yeah.
the lights come on. Same
Yep.
thing with those kids. Those kids have tons of information, and in a war zone and that type of situation for military, people talk about like, kids don't know or kids don't lie. Bullshit about kids don't lie. Kids lie all the time. Okay, but the cool thing is, if you know this, kids don't really know what to lie about. You know, so Zarqawi. Remember him?
Yeah.
Musab Zarqawi. How we got him was a 7-year-old kid. You know, there was 5 suicide bombers who were in a safe house, and the mom and dad were like a suicide bomber, rest stop. They had these 2 kids with them, so they're just keeping them overnight. They're belted up, ready to rock. They're sleeping in this stuff because they're going to go explode the next day.
That's sketch.
Well, one dude, has a rough night at bed and rolls over and cooks himself off and blows everyone, cooks them all off, kills everyone. The mother, the father, the 2 kids are downstairs. They survive. They pull him in. They bring in child interviewers or whatever, and they start talking to this kid. I think at the point the kid didn't even know his parents were dead, and they're like, "Hey kid, tell him what you told us." To another interrogator, he goes, "If I had a knife in your hand, I'd cut your American throat right now." Like, this kid was a believer. And they're talking to him, and he goes, "Yeah, you don't even know. When my dad finds out you're all dead, he's a high level Al-Qaeda guy." And they're like, "Yeah, how high level?" And they're like, "Oh, so high level." And they're like, "Yeah, bullshit. He's just probably gets the tea for him." And he's like, "Nah, man. Abu Musab Zarqawi was at my house last week." And they're like, "How'd he get there?" And they're like, "Man, he had this badass blue Beamer with blackout windows." And they're like, "Uh-huh." And they're like putting targeting package up. Long story short, direct information led him to a blue Beamer, and they dropped 6 JDAMs on him, and he was still alive after it blew up. They blew up, and they walked up to him.
Yes.
Yeah, an army medic walks up to him. He rolls over. He's still alive, and it kind of made me feel good because the last thing he did before he shuffled off this mortal coil, we just saw a big ass American flag and a soldier staring at him in his face, and he kind of tried to roll away and he died. So, tear.
Yeah,
sorry.
nice.
Yeah.
So
War.
So this is what you continue to do. You continue to teach this profiling into various agencies, police departments.
I can't call it profiling, so anybody, law enforcement, I didn't say profiling. Profiling is a bad word, Yeah. Profiling is a perfectly okay word. Profiling is people want to add racial profiling to it and turn it into a dirty word.
Right,
That's
for
absolutely wrong. Racial
Yep.
profiling is stupid, and honestly, it doesn't work on its face.
Yep.
Think of our enemies of America. They're not blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They're all sorts of different people. There's Dutch people in ISIS. There's Americans in ISIS. So
And there's other organizations outside of ISIS.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
The Russians.
There's the animal rights fucking terror.
Yeah,
Elves
we
and environmental
we
groups,
talk about
yeah.
that absolutely. Like, don't think like the term racial profiling is.
Everyone's looking around for the person with the trench coat and the detonator, and it's like, you're never going to see that. But take the racial component out, that doesn't work. But profiling, that sure as hell works. Do I profile behavior? When people talk about the word discrimination. People discriminate all day, every day. When you're with your kids at school and you see them hanging out with knuckleheads, what do you tell them? Hey, I don't want you hanging out with those people. You're discriminating against
Every
the behavior.
culture,
Yeah.
every fucking civilization does this.
You're discriminating against a behavior. It's not a racial behavior, it's a threat behavior. There's something I don't like, so I'm going to classify the hell out of all that. And that's what I teach people to do is start small, looking for these certain little behavioral indicators, and understand what's happening in your brain too. Because if you're unconditioned, the first thing people want to do is when they see some crazy stuff, non-standard observation, a carjacking, you'll go right into denial. They'll go blank, call it vapor lock. Or they'll see some weird.
Try to make something like, oh, it's not really happening.
It's not happening.
Well, yeah.
It's not being bad.
That was a prank. No, it must be fireworks. Over and over, you see it again. Remember Stephen Katznerzak walks into his geology class in DeKalb, Illinois, with a shotgun and starts playing human whack-a-mole, and no one does anything. No one screams. You just watch this guy kill people. And he gets the last round under his, and he flips his shotgun under his chin and blows his brains all over the place. Then everybody gets up and runs screaming out of there. And they talked to him, did interviews with the grief survivors, and some of the kids said, "Well, I thought it was a test. Not an educated man, don't know what kind of geology class is it."
But it is completely abnormal.
It's completely
It's
abnormal.
You're a
completely
safe-
off the baseline,
Yes.
and it's something they've never experienced.
Eyes,
so they
brain,
don't know how.
process,
They don't know how to react to
And
it.
multiple students
Yep.
said the same thing. I thought it was a test. Us sitting here, that doesn't make any sense. But when you understand the mechanics happening,
You're in that conditioned environment of the instructor. So he was a teacher?
no, he was
No.
a student. The teacher
Oh.
got shot. Yeah, he was a student, and DeKalb. No, the shooter was a student. Yeah.
Shooter was a student.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so if people don't understand that, you listeners out there, if you're out there beating your chest like, oh man, if this happens, if you're not a conditioned person, if you haven't been to the places these guys have, you're not going to see this stuff coming. You don't have to go to the places these guys haven't seen this stuff. That's a good thing. Someone can show you that stuff. But if you're operating from zero, people think that's stupid, what we just talked about. Your brain will go into vapor lock. It will defer to, it's a defense mechanism. You're being so overwhelmed that you're like, this isn't happening to me. This is not happening to me.
Yep.
You know, in the military, man, we all the soft people, like I said, SWAT teams, cops, man.
But I think that mentality in a way can help. In the sense of the way it's supposed to work. Because I think
the way it's supposed to.
Because
Right.
you're in denial. You're like,
It's there to sort of like,
I don't know what's
it's a
going
mental
on.
dam.
And then you're like, damn, that's dangerous. And it's like, I'm gonna fucking start retreating.
99% of the population, they're not paying attention. But also, to your point, Jason, 99% of the population is not running around like highly kinetic environment where there's a threat everywhere, depending
Right.
on what your situation is. You know, law enforcement, that's big. So,
My point was like 9 times out of 10, and once that said person does realize that's bad, they're gonna fucking bounce. Like they're getting the fuck out of there, and it's very few that are actually gonna close with and help and put their lives
Yes, absolutely.
in harm's way to protect said people.
Me,
Right,
if there's an active shooter and I'm with my family,
100%.
I'm getting shot in the ass down the street in the Arby's. I'm not. There's no hero stuff happening. I'm not breaching any. I don't have no weapons systems. You know, that's for SWAT teams. You know.
Yeah. I got a crazy story, man. Short and sweet. I moved to downtown LA a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and it was like my first month there. And I was at 2nd and Central, right north of Skid Row. I came out of my apartment complex, made a right. At that intersection, a dude on a fucking motorized beach cruiser, homeless, gets plowed. He's oblivious. I think he's fucked up, but he's not respecting the fucking lights and the flow of traffic. Just blazes through cars and through the intersection, head on, dude, car. And not lightning fast, but like 20, 30 miles an hour. Dude goes flying, hits the fucking ground hard, lights the fuck out. I'm like going through the intersection, slow motion, and watching this whole thing. And I'm like, so I instantly pull over on the right-hand side, put it in park, emergency brake, emergency lights.
You're on autopilot at this
Autopilot, dude, and I open my fucking car door, cars are starting to go. They're driving around them, honking because they're annoyed that this guy's in the middle of the street unconscious.
Welcome to LA.
Yeah.
Dude, I fucking run up to this dude and it's already high 80s, early 90s, temperature-wise. Asphalt's hot. He's face down on the asphalt, hot asphalt on his face. Chiclets are out, some teeth are out. He's bleeding out of his fucking mouth. He's kind of twisted up. And I get down in this push-up position and I listen for breathing, and he's breathing. Cars are fucking zooming by me, dude. But I'm like so hyper-focused on this fucking dude, good and bad. Roll him over. I almost don't want to move this guy, but I'm afraid the temperature's hot. He's gonna get hit. Some dumb fuck's gonna be on their phone, dude. So I like, luckily
You too.
Luckily he was a smaller, yeah, me too. Luckily he was a smaller guy. I fucking swoop him up like he's my bride and carry him. Luckily he was light. I moved him into the fucking shade. There was shade over here. He stopped breathing. I gave him mouth to mouth. I probably have hep fucking Z or whatever. But I didn't want this dude to fucking die. He comes to. There was a construction worker over there.
Was that even a thought in your head though at the time when you were about to do it? Like the
Had a worry
the
about
breathing?
myself.
Yeah, didn't even pop up.
No, I didn't know he was homeless.
Yeah.
I got a picture. I'll post it. I was like covered in blood on my beard and all over my arm. Saw the shirt. Blood came out. But dude like came to, and he was fucked up. I could smell the alcohol at this point. And then it hit me. I'm like, dude, this dude's homeless. And for a split second, I'm like, oh, kind of nasty.
And I just licked his face.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Just making out with this dude.
So, dude, I didn't do much breathing. The dude came to, and he's just like, I'm a veteran. I'm a vet. So I just think like he's used to saying that for like the cops to play that veteran piece. Maybe he really was a vet. I don't fucking know. He was in his 50s. He came to, and then there was a fucking construction dude working for the city right there. He's like, bro, that was the most noble thing I've ever seen. He's like, you're a nice man, something like that. I'm like, dude, call 911 right fucking
Yeah,
now.
get on the phone, man.
So they called 911. I stayed there until the ambulance came, and they swooped him up. I'm like, hey, dude, it's cool. You're not gonna get arrested. Like you were hurt. And he was fucked up, and his arm wasn't working. It was like twisted up. And the ambulance came, and they fucking took him, you know. And they're like, the cops started to show up, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, man. So I bounced. And I went to work. It was like my first week or two at this job. And I'm like covered in blood. And my CEO is like, go home.
They're like, why am I not surprised?
Yeah, like, he was a prior Navy guy.
Yeah.
And he's
So he
like,
just solidified the
I'm like,
bridge.
you got an extra shirt? He's like, go home, Jason. Like, you just went through something traumatic. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
That's Monday, bro.
No one shot at me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I come
I
back.
didn't know.
I fucking come back. And I shower. I think I go to the fucking gym. And come back from the gym. My gym was downtown LA. And there was like news crews. This is like later in the afternoon now because this happened early. And I was like, what's going on? Like, did the dude fucking die at this point? Like, hey, what's up? What happened? Like, hey, man, some like hero fucking dude like saved some bum's life. Like, we're trying to do a story. I'm like, damn, what happened? And they like repeated basically
Came
what
in on a
happened.
white horse?
Yeah. It was purple horse. And I'm like, damn, I hope you guys, like, we're trying to find him. I'm like, yeah, I hope you find him. And I was like, peace. So I fucking left, dude. But like, I guess the dude lived.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's
So,
great. Yeah.
Like, if I wouldn't have been paying attention, my point is, like, on my phone, listening to metal, or didn't give a fuck, like, that dude probably would have died, probably got ran over. Like, he wasn't breathing, dude. Like, that shit, like, I'm glad that moment, like, we connected for a split second. So
And that's all those dudes are driving around and are not, like, whatever.
That's the point, is like,
It's a great analogy to what we've been
that's
talking
what I'm
about.
saying is, like, luckily I wasn't in the white. I was looking up and out and saw and decided I have a choice to make. I had a choice to make action happen. Like, close with or fucking just say, fuck it, I'm out. Like, luckily that dude, like, luckily we connected at that fucking moment. I went through all these, like, courses to, like, you know, make action on the situation.
You were kind of, I mean, not to be weird, but kind of like your guardian. He was lucky you showed up that day. Like, your whole life, his whole life, the trajectories of your whole entire lives, all the training, everything you know, and then that one day he gets hit by a car. That's when you meet him. That's
Dude, it was gnarly, man.
Serendipity.
Like, that dude was airborne. I watched him, like ass over tea kettle, and hit that ground just from the impact of head to concrete from that altitude and rotational speed. I was like,
You're dead.
He's done.
I thought he was dead, dude.
You
Like,
guys ever do that? You see a car and you're like, you're dead. No one's
Yeah.
walking out of that. And someone will pop out.
I haven't
and you're
seen
like,
it
holy
really.
shit.
Do you
Like,
wanna-
That was my first kind of. I was like, this dude. We've all seen dead bodies a lot, and I was just like, this dude's dead.
Yeah.
Like, my heart sank.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
fuck. Welcome to LA.
Yeah.
Like, and it
So,
was kind of his fault.
On that note, you brought some videos that we're gonna take a look at. You want to we'll go through some
Yeah,
of those.
let's talk about some
Take
of
a
those,
look at some of that.
Get cool swag and more only at The Savage Store.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for watching Savage Actual. Thanks for watching this episode. Thanks to Mr. Badou for coming out and spending some time with us. Hope you guys learned something. Make sure you guys give Yousef a follow on Instagram. Check out his company. He's doing amazing things, and it's definitely worth a look, 100%.
Speaking of that, not to cut you off, what is your Instagram?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Yousef Badou _ Emergence. Not many Yousefs out there, you
Hey, spell Badou?
Badou.
We will, on each episode, we'll have a link to your stuff on there, absolutely.
And it's emergence.com.
Yeah, I would emergencedisrupt.com. But the easiest thing to do is just go to my Emergence Instagram, the link tree in bio. Just go in there, and there's all the information you'll need for all the stuff we talked about, my classes, my online training, or just free information, actually. I'm just singing this stuff from the rooftop. So just go to the Instagram, click on the link tree in there, and you'll see all access to all the behavioral training we're doing.
We will have links to your Instagram on the bottom of this video. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Savage Actual, subscribe to Emergence, and make sure you guys come back for the next episode. Thanks for watching.